Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Skywars. So, when I was in primary and elementary school, every now and then there would be these campaigns whose goal was, as far as I can surmise, to ensure that our generation grew up to be steadfast defenders of good conduct and absolute paragons of virtue and goodness and badness. So what we could expect is that either our teacher or some random woman from the National Office of Sanctimonious Lectures would come over to our class and thoroughly explain to us one of several things. First of all, there were the anti-smoking campaigns. I must have been too young to even comprehend the concept of having lungs when it was first explained to me how unequivocally bad smoking is. They'd explain how smoking will insidiously suck your lifeblood until you die a miserable death at 35 from lung cancer because you literally have enough tar in your organism to pave a small highway. They'd leave no doubt in your mind that smoking was objectively stupid. Now, they were right about this. It is a remarkably stupid thing to do, and besides, it's a really expensive habit to have. I mean, I couldn't imagine myself spending hundreds of dollars on a stupid hobby that would just waste my time and harm my health. Then I wouldn't have any money left for video games. Anyhow, one of the other topics they loved to preach about was bullying, which is bad, and you shouldn't do it because it's bad, and you're harming children and your classmates, which is bad. Of course, this hasn't stopped me from bullying children ever since the beginning of this video, but hey, I'm of the opinion that bullying is only bullying if it's not funny. At least that's what I tell myself at night. Anyways, the last thing they preached to us about, and the thing I think is the most important, not least because it's the fucking title of the video, is racism. I remember our teachers telling us racism was bad because if you put yourself in another person's shoes, how would you like to be judged on the basis of your skin color? They'd say this to the tune of those cringy images where a multiracial group of kids is smiling while holding hands. Now, I'm not here to defend racism. If that's what you came here for, then I'm sorry to disappoint. And please go back to 4chan, you dim-witted degenerate. I'm actually here to diss on these campaigns because they are so fucking short-sighted and ineffective. Let me give you a scenario. Say I meet someone who rages in Skywars, and I go up to them and say, "Hey, being toxic is bad. You shouldn't do it." Would you expect that person now to be the Bob Ross of Skywars? Of course not. Because in reality, there are underlying motivations for toxicity. If you're toxic, maybe that's because you're mad about something else. Maybe you're not willing to face your own shortcomings. Maybe you feel like a meaningless cog in a ruthless capitalist machine that only cares about profit, and so the only way to feel some semblance of moral justice and control over your own situation is to fight back against the perceived bullshit of a block game by making death threats to people who use KB rods. Maybe this all applies to me, because I'm such a toxic piece of shit that if I fell in a vat of chemicals, it would turn into the Joker. Maybe I lost my train of thought. Anyways, what I mean to say is that, in the same way nobody consciously accepts toxicity, nobody goes like, maybe I should try this whole racism thing, because it's not like a quinoa diet. Racism is always built on something else, and it's not a one-dimensional thing either. Of course there are smooth-brained tiki torch-carrying skinheads who are convinced Taylor Swift is part of a cultural Marxist plot to undermine the values of their Western heritage of enlightenment. But there are also people, and they might be your friends or family members, who have subtly racist behaviors that might not have avowedly racist intentions behind them, but nonetheless contribute to the disenfranchisement of people of color. And the fact is, if people like me aren't made aware of how some of our well-intentioned behaviors can make others subtly feel like they don't belong to a place, then there will be a whole world of racism that some might not even notice. And if you're in that group of people who haven't experienced it firsthand, it can be hard to even conceive of. I can try to give you an analogy though. Imagine you go home and every object is in a slightly different place. It's just been nudged a few millimeters. You'd kind of feel like something is wrong, but you probably wouldn't be able to pinpoint it. The same thing goes for being in a place where people treat you politely, but you can unconsciously tell they are thinking about how you look different than them. And then there's online culture. When you frequent the internet, browsing random Minecraft videos and memes, you might come across some more political content. And if you start clicking on these videos, you might find some compilations of, say, SJWs being wrecked. or Sargon of Akkad telling you how feminism is doo-doo, or Ben Shapiro talking about how his wife is a doctor, and also leftism is an illness, and he knows, because his wife is a doctor. And I'm not going to go deep into the stupidity of a lot of these channels, but they all have one thing in common: the fetishization of rationality. Rationality is boring. It's based on being critical of your own thoughts, poring over evidence, and being open-minded. However, these channels have managed to turn boring old rationality into a cool badge that you can proudly wear. I'm rational, unlike those libtard SJW soy boys. In this context, rationality actually equates more to common sense. When Thunderfoot replies to a BuzzFeed video on manspreading by triumphantly claiming that men have balls and that's why they spread their legs, it's just common sense that he's right and that feminists are, incontrovertibly, big smelly poo-poos, and that you, as a rational person, can see past their feminist cuck bullshit. And then you may move on to some more racially charged content. You start going deeper into this online space, and sooner you're entering into what I like to call the I'm not a racist but category. This is the part where, through the sheer power of your gargantuan rational brain, with juicy veins that are throbbing with knowledge, you start to say stuff like, I'm not a racist, but black people commit crime at a disproportionately higher rate. I'm not a racist, but maybe it's their own fault that some black kids are being shot by cops. They should be more compliant with the police. I'm not a racist, but white people suffer more racism than black people. I'm not a racist, but why has Western culture flourished so much while people in Africa are living in shacks? Sorry, interest, by the way. And by this point, you have achieved the notable feat of being very racist while thinking that you're just being perfectly rational, and the facts just happen to be inconvenient to the whole leftist Hollywood elite's agenda of forced multiculturalism and postmodernism or some shit. You have actually just taken the red pill, like John Wick in that Matrix movie, because you're not afraid of cold hard facts. Anyways, you've all probably clicked off of this video by now. Sorry for being boring. But this brings me to my main point. It is useless to say racism is bad, especially to children, because racism isn't predicated on people consciously deciding that skin color is a valid factor for judging people. It's predicated on people's ignorance and their identification with certain noxious political ideologies. So take heed, children. When someone at school tells you racism is bad, be a big boy, with big boy pants. Stand up and tell them that the simple statement that racism is a bad thing does nothing to mitigate the influence that certain social-political structures have in contributing towards the underlying behaviors that really are the linchpin of racism in our society. Either way, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, not leaving a like on my videos is racist. Thank you very much.